Hello, I'm Emily Greggert, Senior Editor with NAB Amplify. I'm here today with two representatives from Disguise. I'm here with Nikki Whittle and David Horba. Hello, how are you?
How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Would you like to take a moment to introduce yourselves briefly?
Hi, I'm Nikki Whittle. I'm Head of Broadcast Solutions for Disguise.
I'm David Horba. I'm VP of Business Development for the Broadcast Division here in New York City.
Wonderful. I would like to hear a little bit from both of you about what's happening with Unreal Engine and broadcast graphics today. Nikki?
I'll start. So we're starting to see more of an upward trend of using Unreal within broadcast productions lately. There's a big interest in virtual productions, and I think if we look at the reasons why very briefly, so some of the big reasons, the pandemic is obviously a very big topic, and how we could continue to do creative storytelling with restricted resource and travel, and how to use studios with less resource, really. And so if you think of like Olympics, you saw the use of virtual studios for the Tokyo Olympics because you couldn't send your presenters on site, but you still wanted to tell that story. So using gaming engines to create those worlds is getting popular. And also, it's a saying that I saw recently I quite like, is the attention economy. So that higher demand for keeping fans engaged, the expectation of photorealism graphics, all of that is starting to move towards gaming engine graphics and pushing those creative boundaries. And with Epic, we've also seen that push for breaking into the broadcast sector. So they've just released an 80-page field guide of how to use Unreal within broadcast. They've released a sample project that you could use, which is a sports environment, and they've just announced a plugin it's called Avalanche. So it's a software that will allow your more traditional broadcast designers to be able to create graphics without having to learn the full Unreal platform.
Sounds like it's a story of learning to do more with less, but also more with more, right? As we're leaning into these new technologies or old technologies moving into newer sectors. So, David, I would like to know a little bit about what is Porta and how it can be used.
So Porta is our new user interface to work with.
I'm sorry, David.
Microphone?
In microphone. I'm not sure if it's off or if it needs to be a little closer to you. It's on.
It's on? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Very young.
Okay.
So Porta is our new user interface to control Unreal Engine graphics. It's a native, cloud native, so it has been built from the ground up to work in the cloud. That means you can operate in any browser, any computer. It can be a Mac, a PC, an iPad. It provides to the user experience where you can collaborate with other operators. So when you're playing out graphics, you can have two operators playing graphics from two different places, one operator playing from two different playlists for the same show. So it's very dynamic in building workspaces for the user. We have deep data integration APIs. We integrate to our data aggregation, centralized data aggregation software, which is called Ipsum. So if you want to do weather graphics, sports graphics, news graphics, we have a ton of pre-made integrations already that we use with our broadcast customers. So it's really easy to open up a template and bring in the data and play it out with graphics with data. And one important aspect is we build templates for the users so they can create and repeat graphics and play them out, just changing the data, changing the content. This with Unreal is not something that you can find easily these days, but what we do is we use Unreal presets, which is a way to activate the control of your text, the scale of an image, the image, the objects, whatever you want to control in Unreal. So we activate the presets, and then Porta will automatically create a template so you can play it out on a playlist. The playlist can be sequential. We do collab number playlists that is more traditional for like trucks, like 1,000 take, this type of workflow. And by the end of the year, we're going to have MOS integration with newsroom systems, so we have a MOS workflow, and journalists will be able to use these templates in a newsroom environment, add it to the rundown, and then play it out with Porta. So that's a little overview of the product. So.
Sounds like Porta addresses a lot of really important concerns that are only going to grow as we try and do more things like this. So let's talk about specifically who's going to be able to benefit from this type of workflow. Nikki, I believe you might want to take this question.
Yep, if this works. So as David said, Unreal is quite a learning curve. So a lot of productions at the moment really want to use Unreal, but it's quite daunting for them. And again, they've got like their operators, their designers that are all trained in more traditional broadcast graphic systems. And within production, when you're moving over to new softwares, you need to think of how that sits in the whole production workflow line. And I used to run operational teams in graphics, so I know very well that your first thought is, how do I train my staff upon this? And like, how do you simplify the workflow? And what's great about Porta is it is simplifying that workflow. So it's allowing production teams to start to bring Unreal into their production workflow with as least disruption as possible. And it's very easy to use. So you could put that interface in front of a graphic operator. They could learn it very quickly. And what's even better is because it's so simple, it's removing that need for specialist skill. So if you wanted to tier your production events, you could train a producer to use this as well. So it's just triggering very like basic graphics if needed for that smaller production where you don't want a full team. And then also how you connect your templates with the Porta control, as David said, is you exposing parameters so you don't have to learn the blueprint code inside of Unreal as well. So it's just really helping production teams simplify that workflow, but being able to push the boundaries of how they tell that story with more higher end graphics.
Addressing the simplification of the workflow and addressing the workflow's learning curve is certainly of like the high priority no matter what your industry is. But I'm also really curious to learn that I understand that Porta can efficiently control different environments. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
It's still on.
You press something? Okay. Yeah, it's actually that's one of the main aspects of Porta. So it provides a real-time preview inside the user interface, so you can always see your Unreal Engine graphics. As you know, Unreal Engine has been used quite a bit in the past few years, so you can find it in many different environments. We do master control graphics, which is stickers, and L-shape type of infographics. We use it for CG, for CG graphics, lower thirds, full screens, augmented reality, for virtual studios, and then also, of course, with these guys, to control the LED content, the content going to the LEDs, and then XR environments with LED. So it's central to this type of different production environments where Unreal is really the driving force in building the graphics and creating the graphics in real time. And because we have a real-time preview, I think that's key. That's also uncommon to see with Unreal, have a preview inside, so you can previs any graphic, whatever environment you're working with, whether it's virtual or not virtual, just plain full screen graphics, for example. So
very interesting. So now let's talk a little bit about how Porta and Disguise come together. What does that look like for the user and results?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So a bit of background on Disguise is, so we've had 20 years experience of working more in like live events and theatre production. It's a software hardware ecosystem that controls like your virtual studios or your sets. And we have a software called Designer or D3 Designer, and that's a 3D simulation tool that you can use to pre-visualize your set, map your content, basically control your studio show. And what's great about Porta is Porta can be used standalone to trigger Unreal graphics, but it can also integrate with that D3 Designer software. So you can also control your whole studio through this playlist. And again, it's bringing that simplicity of those. If you wanted to give this to a team that don't need to learn that full technical complexity, but they still want to tell a story, they can use this software as well. And right now it's focused on broadcast, but because it's so simple, we can then use that with the Disguise system of using it with other verticals. So corporate, for example, who may not have that technical skill to be able to go into D3 and control a full show, but we could just set up a very simple template-based production.
I'm sure it's really interesting to see the different applications and how you'll get it out into the field, and then people will have a new idea for what the technology you've created and how it can be applied in a different situation, or from someone who's new to the program and just they'll try something and you never know what'll happen. But I think we have a few minutes left. If either of you would like to share any final words of wisdom or direct anyone to your booth.
Maybe, well, just comment on how we see the market today and where Porta can sit in
absolutely.
in a given network or local station group. And we've seen that there is a lot of different environments where Unreal is playing and different manufacturers or vendors. So one good thing of Porta is we're agnostic to the workflow. So at the end we are controlling Unreal Engine. If it's vanilla, great, that's the version that comes directly from Epic. So we always try to be paired with that and are always up to date with that. But we also can work on the Unreal Engine, and other vendors have are versioning. So that means, in a given network, we have these type of cases. They may have, a system from, a zero density or Pixotope, or, they have Unreal Engine Vanilla. They have these guys all in that same ecosystem, and Porta can sit in the middle and be the one common denominator for the playback of all the graphics on all those different environments. They struggle many times on, depending on the studio, I have to really change my workflow, change my way of playing out the graphics. With Porta, we try to do is, one single way to play all the graphics, whatever Unreal is present in the whole ecosystem, no? So I think that's an important point. And maybe the last one on the data, we have solved a lot of the data. Unreal sometimes is complex, or feels complex to broadcasters in terms of displaying data and data-driven graphics, and we have solved that very well with Ipsum, with our platform, and the integration we have with Porta. I think we definitely have gone a long way on making that really, really easy to do and to use. So.
And I think the whole theme that we're trying to say is that we are trying to simplify that workflow, make it easier for the traditional production environments to be able to use Unreal and push those boundaries further. And as we said, take away the technical complexity and just make it very user-friendly. And we are at booth 1031, so if anybody wants to come and see our booth, we are running demos of Porta on our laptops as well.
Sounds like a great opportunity, and I certainly encourage any of you who have any questions to chat with Nikki or David off to the side or at their booth. But thank you both for your time and for your insights.
Thank you.